Welcome to Of Seed and Soil, Unincorporated Stories of Food, Farming, and Freedom. I am Summer Sibley Brown, your host, and I'm so happy if you've joined us for another episode. And if it's this your first time, welcome. This podcast tells stories of food, farming, healers, people of the land, the soil. We are here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but we seek to capture stories from across the Caribbean. And just to add context to what a food system and what really makes food important. And today I have the privilege of having Miss Emmanuella Perez-Cassius in the studio with me. I need to make a disclaimer to you. This episode might get a little crazy because she also is my best friend. So if you live in the Virgin Islands, you know Emmanuella is my best friend. But she's also a land steward, an avid farmers market supporter, and often has way too much to say. So, morning, Emmanuella.
Morning. I'm so happy you put a little bass in your voice when you said my name. You know, you went from your elevated, hey, welcome to the podcast, to Emmanuella Perez-Cassius. So thank you, Summer, for making sure that this space feel like us. Yes. I appreciate being here.
Okay, so into us. Here we go, Bells. I call her Bells. Sorry, Emmanuella.
There we go.
You know, the people meeting us for real. The reason I invited you, one, who don't want a chance to play with your best friend on air, but two, like, you've seen my journey, but you have a journey of your own, yes. Right? And so I've seen yours as, like, I've seen you growing to a land steward. I've, seen you grow into an avid supporter of farmers market and have a lot of opinions about it. And I wanted to actually bring that into this space. But first, I want to introduce people to you because I can't assume they know you. So who is Emmanuella Perez-Cassius?
Emmanuella Perez-Cassius, yes. Well, born and raised Crucian. I am definitely from the seed and the soil of the Virgin Islands, generation-wise. I work in the Virgin Islands. I went to school in the Virgin Islands. And now I raise my children in the Virgin Islands, and I also now own land in the Virgin Islands. But what was important for me in getting into this space, you're talking about being a farmer's market shopper or consumer, that really come from this walk that you started, right? I remember you talking about the amount of food that we import, and it started to give me a level of consciousness and connection to food and the way we operate. So what am I also? I am also a consumer that have a whole lot of listen, my money is worth something. So yes, supporting a system of food is important, but I also want to find a level of responsibility to the consumer market. And that's where me and you always battle, because it's like, yeah, we want to support the farmers in the Virgin Islands, but the farmers have to have a responsibility to the consumers too. So I'm also a nag in your ear?
The gnat of Athens, maybe.
As we build this system up and strengthen it.
You're not a nag in my ear, but you definitely offer me an opposite view, right? And I think that is important in the work that I do, right? I tunnel vision in it. I'm like, what does the farmer need? I am like, I want to support the farmer. I understand we import 98%. I understand that it's super important. And what you'd bring into me is the consumer lens. You'd be like, you're so in care of the farmer that you forget that I just pay X, Y, and Z, or I don't see any price control in the market. And often we know these conversations that end up in elevated tone because we have labor issues here in the Virgin Islands, right? The cost of what people put into the food. So I'm always advocating for the farmer to get out. And I feel like you always reminded me the consumer need access, which is part of the mission of VI Good Food. So,
but also the system have a responsibility. Agriculture is a business. Farming is a business. It can't just be seen as a special business that only gets exempts and then the person who's producing just thrives uncontrollably without considering the fact that
this is so good because
is important to us, right? We need your food, but we do a lot as a government and as a system to subsidize the making of food here in the Virgin Islands, too, from my opinion.
But do we really do a lot? And before we get into our first real debate, I want to ask you a little bit more questions for you. But hold the question. Do we really do a lot? So what do you do in your day job, Emmanuella?
I work for the Virgin Islands Housing Authority. And again, People and families.
What part of the Virgin Islands Housing Authority?
I work
Let
in
me
the
pull it.
resident wellness department. I guess that's important, right? Okay, let's
Not
get
I
into
guess.
it.
Let's get
It's
into it. You
important.
work
Okay.
in the get on your
I
long
am,
title.
I am also the director of resident wellness and empowerment for the Virgin Islands Housing Authority. And I love my job, absolutely love my job. And it spins from my job in education. So I'm about the family, and a lot of what I come with when me and you are getting into these debates is from the perspective of people who have mouths to feed in the home.
Okay, so one, data to soil.
Mhm.
Two, longest title ever, Director of Resident Wellness and Empowerment
Yes.
for Virgin Islands Housing Authority. What's your other role in this community?
I'm also an elected member of the Virgin Islands Board of Education.
Elected member of Virgin
Yes.
Islands Board of Education.
I
Okay.
forgot about all these things. Let's go down and list. Let me see my other receipts. I'm a mother of 5. I am also a graduate of class of 1996. Go Caribs.
You're like watching the camera, like you're gonna see me go, Karen. Tell her, go ahead.
I am a proud member of the Democratic Party of the Virgin Islands. I am very active in the political realm, but also in the system change realm and the family support realm. So these things for me to tie in. And when I come and I'm having these discussions, it's because I get the systems, but we can't separate systems in a way when it comes to food, education, health, and safety.
So we agree on that. We agree that you can separate systems. 100%.
High five. That's us agreeing. Good job.
That doesn't happen often.
Let's start at a good place.
That don't happen
Let's
often.
plant a good
If you
ground.
know us, and if you know us, that don't happen often. So okay, we agree that systems intersect.
Yes.
My focus, Virgin Islands Good Food focus, right, is building a web of support for the smallest actors in a system who happen to be, in my opinion, farmers, smallholder farmers, like family-based farmers, consumers, right, and chefs. I would say chefs, right, to get access to the support they need to build viable long-term businesses in a system that has historically not served them. So you was like, oh, well, they get a lot of exemptions or they don't get a lot of support. And if you ask a farmer, they'll be like, where is it? Because they don't. So what support you think they don't get? Tell me.
Can we start with the land that they're starting on with your tax exempt and the amount of money you pay out to it, right? $1 a year for land?
Nope.
Land that is the highest commodity any community can have.
So
we're giving it.
Let's clarify that farmers do not pay $1 a year for land.
Okay, how much do they pay?
So they pay $1 a year for their license in the Virgin Islands.
Okay.
That is what is $1.
And then the land that is given to them from the government, the group that gets it.
So 2, not given, the land that is applied for, that has to go through property and procurement and before the legislature that they need to submit a business plan for.
Mm-hmm.
So they given, they went through a process. It's 15, I don't know if it's changing, but so it's $15 per acre, right? Per month.
Okay.
So if I get 10 acres, that's $150 per month for the acreage. I'm not saying that that's not a privilege, but...
Okay, so I'm just looking at it from the business perspective. What business do you know gets that as their startup, where they just had to apply to get their building to get started? Which business do you know does that?
I feel like a lot of businesses in the Virgin Islands, we just leased a business in St. Thomas. What was it, like 100-year lease for like $2? I mean, I've been exorbitant. I know it's not $2, but for some ridiculous price. We have nonprofits. We have people who on land that they don't pay $1 a year for, $100 one time for $100 lease. So like, I don't feel like.
Tell me which business.
St. Croix Landmark Society have a lease for a long time. Farmers in Action, the building in St. Thomas that was just in the legislature.
Talking about nonprofits?
I'm talking about 2 nonprofits and 1 for-profit. I don't know the name of the for-profit, but I just came before the legislature.
Farming is for-profit.
So is the other business that we just did it for in St. Thomas, that we give them like 100-year lease or some ridiculousness.
Well, we could go and look at that, right? Even that one, I would say the same thing too. if that is the case, then we have to have a level of control to ensure that the taxation around it is still being able to feed back into the system.
So, but who's supposed to put in the level of control, Emmanuella? The farmers or the government?
The government.
Okay, we in agreement. We in agreement about that too.
I'm 100% agreeing with that. I think that we need to look at the way that, and this is from the work you've done, has helped me to look and see like, oh, there's gaps in here. A farmer right now can say, my watermelon is $50 a pound. And he got pausing out here that will come and say, that's against, I can't even go to consumer and complain that farmer.
Actually, you should be able to go to consumer and complain that farmer.
But we can't. Not in the system that we have right
but
now.
But again,
right?
that ain't the farmer fault.
I'm not saying false. I'm saying
Okay.
there's a level of responsibility because you are in food. People are depending on you to eat. Survival is directly tied to you. It's like the hospital. A doctor can't just be like, well, you don't have enough to pay, so you can't come to the hospital. That's why there are public hospitals and private hospitals. And because we subsidize because we subsidize the field, I think there should be a level of responsibility.
Give me one field that we don't subsidize here in the Virgin Islands. Give me one industry in the Virgin Islands
that is privately owned, that is a business that is privately owned.
That is not subsidized, that don't have access to subsidies.
I don't know any businesses that have access to subsidies
so
on that level.
So you don't think that EDC tax benefits is a mechanism for subsidization?
That's no. I think that's their wraparound way to increase taxes coming in from one end and giving you and services like money and giving you a break on taxes. But we didn't give them anything in the beginning to start with.
So we don't give Diageo, we don't give rum companies breaks to come in. They're not subsidization. That is a huge, like, I don't understand. And they're also agricultural in nature.
Back to the system versus the amount that we're getting back from the agriculture, from the farmers. It's not the same. It's not equivalent.
We have
a market around rum, right? So there's a level of money coming into our government that we depend on that from. There is not a level of services coming back, in my humble opinion, from farming and agriculture worth the amount that we're giving out.
But what are we giving out? This is the part that's outside of an agricultural land, at least here and in Puerto Rico, that is managed by the government, shares much of the same infrastructure, right? Because you want to encourage people to remain in agriculture, especially when we import 98%. So, but we wanted to encourage large rum companies to come here. So we buy all the molasses for them, like to the tune of millions of dollars.
But the industry is still giving us back millions of dollars. We're not getting that same get back from agriculture right now. And that's just where we're going to have
haven't invested millions of dollars into agriculture. We haven't consistently over years invested the same thing we have in agriculture for it to give yields.
I disagree. Land is a high commodity. The worth and the value that we could have maybe turned over from the land that we invested in. So we're saying we're going to hold this off for you. We're going, as a system, we're not going to make any money off of this for a period of time. Because
they are making money off of it. They're collecting their rent. That's the rent price they choose.
So the system needs to be adjusted.
On which end?
Have to meet the outcome. Like the intention and the impact don't match for me when it comes to our agricultural system. And as a consumer, because even the amount of access I have to fresh foods that come from here. You're sitting on these lands and I can't see where I can get that level where I'm not still broke. Like I feel like fresh food is becoming an elite thing. If you don't have a salary like mine, it's very hard for you to gain and support your family off of this. And I think that should be important.
In your mind, how do you just describe how you think a basic farmer, right, is getting to any given product? What do you think the process is?
What do you mean? I don't know. I'm not a farmer. I don't understand that part. The part I understand though is when it comes to market and me as a consumer and needing the service. It's like education. If I have a school, maybe I don't know what it takes to keep the school open and operating, right? But I still expect a level of education for my children.
So no, but we hear debating it. So that's why, like, what is it worth, right? Why would a watermelon or a tomato or spinach or a mango cost what it costs, right? Because if we're talking about the business of farming, unlike most places that food has to drive. So if a farmer need a tractor to plow their land, that tractor coming where? From overseas. So they have to pay. If the Department of Agriculture is available, they may receive services. A lot of them tell you they won't. So those who can purchase a tractor, they pay in the cost of the tractor. That tractor have to come from overseas. They have to
Are you
pay.
telling me they're investing in their business?
Wait, but so you're asking why the cost of it? So they're not complaining, right? They've turned it into around the cost of labor. Most of they have to pay minimum wage. Most farmers don't pay minimum wage because they can't retain anybody at minimum wage. So they're small farms.
Again, you're telling me about their investment in their business?
Yeah, no. I'm telling you why it costs what it costs. Because if you're saying you need them to operate as a business and we could come to an agreement, then a business, the outcome price is based on inputs. So we're looking at the inputs, right? Because you have assessed that, okay, you're getting the land at a cheap value, so you should be able to provide me with more. By saying I am not getting the tractor at a cheap value, I'm not getting the seeds at a cheap value, not getting the labor as a cheap value, I'm not getting the water as a cheap value, I'm not getting the packaging as a cheap value. Then I have to go through hurricane season, disease, pests. All of these are business conditions that they are navigating. So when you see the outcome cost, and if I'm organic, if I paid pesticides, like all these things vary. So that's the cost that going into their food.
All these things are not regulated, so I'm just going by your word of mouth, right? Because the things at the end, my system is not collecting taxes from you. You're a business that is charging based on how much you're investing and how much you're putting in, your in versus your out. Like any good business, then you should be taxed on that same level as a business in the Virgins. But instead, we do not tax them on that level.
So nationally, that's not local. The Schedule F and the Schedule C that's filled out by farmers, those fall under national standards for taxation. They're in them because we want to encourage domestic food production.
So again, we want to encourage domestic food production. We're not getting more food production, and then you're still qualifying on that thing. There's the amount that you're giving into the system that we've invested into encourage food production.
What amount has been given into this? This is the part that I keep not understanding, because I hear you on the land subsidy and the license, right? So I see you saying $15 an acre and $1. What else is being invested in them that covers the cost of anything?
So there's no other subsidies that agriculture is getting? Because now I feel like I should have did a little more homework on the system.
You want to come back on the show after you do homework?
Because the point is still the same. The level of responsibility to the consumer means, okay, I decided to go into this industry.
Correct.
This industry does not make me a millionaire.
Nobody went into farming to become a millionaire.
Absolutely. So then whatever it is it takes to ensure that my community is going to be fed at a reasonable, that more people could be fed, I feel should be a part of their thought process. Instead, what I'm seeing in the pattern over the years, when we first started this, maybe about 5 years ago, the cost was one thing. I get it. Things have went up, inflation all over, but they skip and they unregulated. If I go to summer, it's this much, but if I go to you, it's this much. And we're all inside of this system. And we're all supposed to be a part of this system, right? But there's no regulation to ensure that me as a person who's purchasing one gets high quality, no pesticide foods, right? Because that's a risk I'm taking as a consumer.
That's the risk you take when you go to the grocery store.
That's not true. Grocery stores have labels, grocery stores have things, and if push comes to shove in a grocery store, there's a level of accountability. Hey, consumer, we just received bad product from here, and then somebody goes in and regulate them. If I go to the same consumer and say, hey, I just received 6 plums that's, I don't know, I got sick from because there was pesticide on it. And he never said, my product has in pesticide, then there's not the same. A supermarket can't advertise something as organic and know that that is not organic. A farmer
that
can.
Happens all the time.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen somewhere. I'm saying
so when because you say it can't, but you have products that you buy in the grocery store every day.
If somebody finds out and challenges it, I have a means to challenge it.
So
I
you're
don't
saying
have
you don't
any means
so
to challenge
so
this.
who but again, that to me is not a problem of the farmer.
But we weren't arguing problem of the farmer. We're
Okay.
arguing strengthening the system so that it serves both needs, the farmer and the consumer.
So what are the consumers' needs? Yes, let me talk about it. What are the consumers' needs? You're a consumer. Like one thing I could say, as much as we're debating, every Saturday morning, Emmanuella is at the farmers market, right?
And it's not
So,
food.
right? So tell me, what do the consumers need?
Level of expectancy, right? Like expectancy in product, expectancy in service, expectancy in price. Maybe a little bit more access to variety, right?
So you're saying you want to be able to to budget or plan based on knowing that these are the prices that are available in the farmers market across different farmers. So you don't
The
want to see a
range.
tomato at for $1 and then a tomato for $5 per pound. You want a range, a measurable range.
Tomatoes usually going for this right now. This is going for this right now, right? Like I want to know that this farmer is truly growing this or producing this and not stealing this from the neighbor tree and coming to sell it. Like there's things that I don't feel it.
So
Conflicting as the system is developing.
So you want to be able then, so okay, one, you say price range. Two, what I'm hearing you talking about is tracking or tracing or being able to know the origin of the item. And like to be real, and looking at the camera, like theft is a thing in farming. Like people have stolen products or can take things from other people and push it into the market quickly. So you want to know the origin of a product. What else you want to know, consumer?
That's about it for now. As the system
for now.
grows, I'll be able to see where more things are happening for me.
love the fact that you're willing to be patient with that.
I want to keep supporting this, right? But it's not a vigilante show. It has to be. It has to be a system or a structure that gives people an opportunity to feed their families in an economic way where we can say, yeah, whether I'm rich or I'm poor, I could eat like this. And especially here in the Virgin Islands. Like we're starting to get to those, those places.
What about the fact that farmers accept SNAP? EBT. Their farms, I know, like I know CSAs because
I know there's a WIC thing. I didn't know that there's a SNAP thing.
Yes,
so
farmers. There are farmers markets that accept SNAP benefits, right? That program is ran through Human Services in partnership with the Department of Agriculture.
I'll take it.
I know farms that have CSAs that take partial payment, right? So you could join up for 6 weeks of fresh food and pay some upfront. You could pay with your SNAP card. I know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, see, we need to tell people about this, right? Because this gonna make me feel better. Seriously, like I keep,
wait a minute, they're doing nice things.
Because part of the struggle is like, okay, so I could still eat like this, but I work in a place where I know we're not making the same, and I want their children to be able to eat like my children. So as I'm seeing agriculture develop and grow, it's like, is this becoming one of those farmer markets like in America that I go to where only the rich people and their nice organic bags walk around eating? Because that's what it feels like I'm starting to see more and more.
So, like one of the our main slogan given to us by Farmer Fire Love is first we feed
Farmer Fire Love, somebody named that?
Yeah,
no, I didn't know farmers have names like DJs. I'm in for it. I am here for it.
Farmer Fire Love. No, okay, Emmanuella, stop. This is what.
Serious.
All right. Farmer Fire Love gave us our name. First we feed ourselves, right? And so I agree, right? The thing is one, in order to reduce the 98% import rate, we have to start doing the work to have more production and maximize the use of land. But I think that part of the reason why we do this podcast is so that people can hear that that's what farmers want too. They want to be able to maximize the use of land. They want to be able to set up viable businesses and meet the cost needs that they can drive price down and make food more affordable, right? But they want more people. They want to feed the people of the Virgin Islands. How do we do that? That's why good food exists, right? Like, what is the how that makes this, to your point, accessible to everyone? And it's actually connecting perspectives because
and the system.
And the system.
if you want to be outside the system, fine. There's space for business outside the system. There's business community that has nothing to do with the government of the Virgin Islands. But agriculture does have to do with the government. And since agriculture and farming tie in on one end, then they have to be able to build to ensure that it's a what do you call that relationship when we're both eating at the same time off of each other? Symbiotic. That is where I would dream of our agriculture and farming system here in the Virgin Islands to grow into something that both of them is feeding off of each other. I hear them when they talk about the disparities before of working with the government where they weren't being fed equally, right? But in fairness, you weren't producing equally either. So now that we're both here and we recognize our wrongs, we were talking about that earlier with parenting. This is like parenting for me. Okay, your children now is teenagers. We reached a place now, I feel the system is becoming adult. When we came in, it was more teenage. But the work I've seen you do over the last 10 years, the system started to grow. So as this is growing, are we going to still say, yeah, you could come to your mother's house every day to eat nonstop, but you don't buy groceries for the house? Like, we've got to have a level of...
So I think if we're talking about the work that VI Good Food does, right? I think the work that VI Good Food does is actually still very much like it's weird. So we're talking about children. So like when your teenager living in their teenage body, but also have still very like childlike tendencies, but they talking to you like they's an adult, and you're like, little girl, go sit down. Because I could hear and see that you're thinking and clicking. I think Good Food has grown into a more teenage body, and we're still discovering like what it means to be an adolescence, and we're going through puberty, right?
I agree. The organization is doing that, yeah. But that's not the system of agriculture and farming in the Virgin Islands. I don't think they're going through puberty. I think this full grown. I don't think so. You're not a dependent full grown. You have to become an independent full grown. Agriculture has been here from my grandfather. My grandfather buy 1 full acre of land in Calcahoon, and he used to cattle cows. And let's talk
about that. Let's talk about land ownership. But I do want to come back and circle around and said, so like in systems change, right? We talk about like the wicked problem. So I feel like, like when you meet a person who they're in a full grown body, but you'd be like, oh, you stuck at 18, right? I was going to be so sexist, right? I name one specific gender, and I'm not going to do it, but I just stated what in my head, right? But you stuck at 18. You then a full body, but you stuck at 18. Mm-hmm. Like I feel because we came up against something, and while the system has existed for a really long time, for a very long time we've been stuck, and people been trying to throw solutions at a wall. But the symbiotic relationship is not there. So what happens is a lot of blame and shame, right? Like the government blame and shames farmers and be like wagging a finger like, Ayo need to be better business people, and Ayo need to do. And the farmers blame the government. Ayo ain't never did it. And even when things are changing, we haven't gotten past the blame and shame. So like, we have two sets of people working really hard to be seen, and there's no space for appreciation, right? Because there's actually no healing and forgiveness. And I think in this weird way, as friends, right? So everybody, we've been friends since we were 8 years old. She hates when I tell people that. Yes, we will not tell people on the podcast how old we are.
We're not kidding.
But just know, we've been friends since 8 years old. And so the one thing we have learned to do is forgive each other well, right? I'm 8 years old. I know we had to fall out, and we've had to make a lot of mistakes, right? The difference is the vulnerability to one, accept when I make a mistake, and two, forgive when I feel like a mistake has been made, because I trust the intention of the person sitting on the other end of the table. Because trust me, I can speak to myself. I get it wrong a lot of times. I am not all warm and cuddly. And like Emmanuella sees me and forgives me. And so when we talk about the system, there's a level of humanity that we have to bring back to the system where farmers could forgive the Department of Agriculture and other agencies, and the Department of Agriculture could forgive farmers for the things that they may have said about them or felt, in order, like we have to release the past in order for the system to move forward. So I don't feel like it's old. I feel like it's stuck.
No, stuck, but ain't young. You could be stuck and be 100 years old. You know, my father used to say, whether you learn today or learn the day you're about to dead, you're going to learn. So that is what this is.
In good Wang Papo fashion,
Uh-huh.
let's talk about your dad and let's talk about how you became a land steward.
Blessings. That's how I became a land steward. I mean, I purchased my first home, but I was giving land in the Virgin Islands through inheritance, which was passed down 3 generations now. I am actually the 4th generation that's touching this land. I am the 3rd generation that's touching this land. My sons will be the 4th generation. But this was because agriculture was the basis of why we acquired property in my household. My grandfather had 2 dreams.
What's your grandfather's name?
Vincent Harris Perez. Oh, he's not a Perez. Vincent Harris. Vincent Augustus Harris. Perez is my father's name. But he purchased this because his dream was 2 things. One, we're going to own land for generations to come, right? Every tub, my grandfather used to say, everybody needs to own a piece of the rock. That's like a real thing inside of the family. They pass it on. You own a piece of the rock yet? Everybody got to own a piece of the rock. Because when you go back to colonization, everybody else owned a piece of the rock. So that was important to him. When he purchased it, though, he purchased it in an area where he perceived to be good growing land, you know? So he went to Calcahoon with it. To our surprise, it's ish growing land because Salt River to run right underneath it and the salt water to affect the land itself. But 2 plots down, fresh water running underneath their yard, right? But at the time, everybody wanted to cultivate. My grandfather was into livestock. He wasn't necessarily a farmer.
Really?
Yeah, man, we had cow, pig, goat, all kind of good things on top of the property. As a matter of fact, he started off owning cows. You know where Martin Marietta there? You see that plot with all them solar panels there?
Yeah.
Vincent Harris used to run cow around there. And then he got an opportunity to purchase this land in Calcahoon, and he thought it was going to be great because we have enough space and he could grow. But he also wanted family to live together. The second part of his dream was plot after plot. My aunts, my father, the brothers, everybody gonna live on top of this because that's how you ensure the family to stay, the land to stay within the family and to ensure that we'll keep growing on the same land.
So today, tell me where you live and what's on your land because I think it's interesting.
I am right back. I start off on the east side and I am right back in the middle of the island on the same land that my grandfather purchased years and years ago to raise animals. I am still raising animals on top of the land thanks to my husband. Truth be told, Emmanuella
is an involuntary farmer.
Is an involuntary farmer. I married in to the idea of poultry farming. And when you marry somebody, you gotta take all of the come with them. And my husband absolutely loves poultry. So we have almost every kind of bird I could think of.
Name some of the varieties that you raise.
We got geese, we got guinea fowl, we got ducks. Oh, I can't even name half the different breeds of the ducks. If I know you want to run down at the different ducks, it would have been thing. But one of them I know is a local duck. You don't call it local duck. I don't know.
What I mean,
but that's
local
the one
duck.
with the
Okay.
red stuff around the eyes. That's the local duck. Compared to like the Moscato or something like that, that might be wine and not ducks. Wait a minute, sorry.
that is absolutely
But it's
perfect.
the little brown ducks that are in America's ponds. When you go visit to the States, you see like these little brown ducks with like green
Like Daffy Duck.
highlights. No, Daffy Duck black. This is like the one with the green highlights, like the
Donald Duck?
iridescent. Not Donald. Focus.
Okay,
Back
sorry.
to focus.
Sorry.
We also have small kikidikis. I know those names. We've got big chickens, layers. And they're all free range. They're so free.
They are so free. They
The rest
really,
of us
really
are
are so
hostage.
free. Everybody's hostage to the ducks, especially the African geese.
Yes.
That
yes.
was a thing with like the little afros in the middle. Too much for me. But they did have like an afro mohawk.
Yes.
What do you do with your ducks? Do you sell the meat? Do you sell the eggs? Like what's up?
So we don't slaughter any animals, but we do sell live animals to individuals who want to eat. We also sell a lot of eggs, right? We give away a lot of eggs, you know, especially the duck eggs. We've learned that they're so high in protein that people who are under cancer treatment in the Virgin Islands, it truly benefits their bodies when they eat duck eggs because the yolk have so much protein. It'll basically give them their energy they need to continue fighting. So we don't give out a lot of eggs most of the time, eggs batting dogs, because you could only imagine. So we're handing them out to people. We haven't gotten to the place where we've stabilized it of like a sale business, because again, the regulations that we don't know about to ensure a level of the same thing I'm looking for as a consumer, a level of safety in my health, right? Like,
I like the integrity.
Yes, yeah. I'm not going to say it's good for another consumer to purchase something that have no regulation. These eggs literally down and eat the mango tree, and I'm picking them up, washing them off, and giving them to you. I can't tell you I could tell you what the ducks were eating and stuff, but I can't tell you if this egg having blood, if this egg sitting long, if this egg ain't sitting long. My husband can do.
Let me ask you a question. When last you buy eggs, Emmanuella?
Oh my gosh. 16 years I'm married, 16 years me buy eggs.
You have not purchased eggs from the grocery store for 16 years.
16 years. I only eat eggs out the yard.
Do you realize the level of autonomy that has given you? In a world where egg prices have increased, you are, and I, because I don't have to purchase eggs, let me just say that, you and I are really immune, right? So I also want to uplift that while you are an involuntary farmer, you are participating in growing our food security, even if it began just by growing your household's food security.
That's how I look at it. I look at it like those people who have those really nice little gardens. You know, some people could go by the yard and get lemongrass, bush tea, They keep a level of house gardening in their yard. That's the same way I feel about eggs in my yard, right? Like, there's just us doing house gardening. It just happens to come out of living animals, and they're all over the place. But we capture them, we get them, and we eat.
So, two things. I want to go back to you saying, first you purchased a home.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk a little bit about the purchasing of the home, because on another episode, we talked about a person's first experience buying land. Mm-hmm. And I would love it if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, what was your purchasing a home story? Because you said purchased a home and then inherited land.
Right.
And did one prepare you for the next, right? Which one came first?
So at the time when I had to go purchase a home, and I'm going to say had to, because my first plan was just to go and live in the house that I'm living in right now, because the house was free and clear and nobody was there. Daddy and mommy live up in the other house in Thai. And my father said, Emmanuella, every tub must sit on its own bottom. Like, you gotta get a house because you get a house, not because you waited for me to dead to get a house. So I went to USDA. USDA have a full first-time home buyers program. And if anybody don't know, I had a whole tribe of children. So I qualified because
really, it wasn't a tribe yet. I mean, she had 5, but okay, she had a full tribe of children. Then I want you to know it was 3.
But it helped me to qualify. It felt like a lot. But I was 25 years old. I went to USDA. I had never purchased anything, so my credit wasn't good, nor was it bad. And I went inside there. The lovely people, Kimmy, she just retired. God bless her soul.
Miss Kimmy Bryce.
Yeah, she gone now.
Rural development.
She's out there living the free life. So I say God bless her soul, but she did the work to help people like me purchase my first home. I qualified for $125,000. They was like, okay, go out there and see what house you could find for this. And I went and I looked, and there were different houses. But my parents, my father, my mom is like, make sure it's concrete. Make sure it was built long ago, because these new houses, they ain't no da-da-da-da-da-da. I thought I was going to build at one point too, but then when I saw the cost to build, I was like, oh, that's not going to happen. And the children will be adults before I own a home.
So pause, because I want to clarify. So I want to, for our listening audience, you can, USDA,
Rural Development
mm-hmm. Program also has home buying programs in it.
Yes.
And you can purchase a home or you can build a home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Keep going.
And all of this, of course, comes with qualifications, right? Like, I could have gotten a 3-bedroom because I had a tribe. If you don't have a tribe, you're probably going to qualify for the same amount. But when I went out, at the time, I was also doing real estate. The stars that just align when you're on a mission to do something. And
I remember when you were a realtor at 25.
And he was saying the same thing. We have to start owning. It's important for Virgin Islanders to own. So these messages was like coming to me in my early 20s from all over. Don't rent. You got own. So he was able to then find me a home that was in foreclosure. And the house was great, except they had grass over the top of it. It had every regulation against what USDA had approved, but I was still able to purchase it because then Housing Finance came in. I said, well, if you let her buy this house, we'll remodel it to meet the new standards.
Housing Finance as in Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So as a first-time home buyer, they have funds available to help you repair existingly built units. So I purchased it through USDA for $89,000, which was not all of the money that I qualified for. And then I went over to housing finance and they gave me money to fix up everything inside of the house. The catch, don't make any money off of the house for 10 years. At the time, I had a 7-year-old. Ain't no way. As a matter of fact, I thought this is it. This is the only house I'm gonna ever own. So I wasn't worried about the compliance measures. So you can't go out there and get the property and buy the house and then rent it and start making money. But you can make it your home. And that home is where I raised my children at in La Grande Princess. And now, here we are years later.
You passed the 10-year mark.
I passed the 10-year mark. I've paid off most of the mortgage.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
And then now it can become an income, right? Like that's now passive income for my household because now I can rent that.
So I know people in Hawaii who use
You know people in Hawaii?
I do know people in Hawaii. I'm
All
special
right,
like
all
that.
right, ma'am.
I also know people in Alaska and Guam. But no, seriously. I know people in Hawaii who use the same, because Hawaii land is super expensive, like what is happening now. Here, more expensive. USDA gave a farmer who applied to the same program $1 million to buy a home and land to farm on, right? I'm not saying that every person will qualify for $1 million home. I'm saying that depending, where you are and market value, and you do the qualification work, and that program in rural development still exists today.
Yeah.
Because do you value and believe like Vincent Harris that everybody should own a piece of the rock?
Absolutely. It's a fundamental piece of my upbringing, and it's a fundamental piece of what I teach my children. I believe everybody should own a piece of the rock, and I also believe don't sell your piece of the rock. Now,
let's talk about that. Why not?
Don't sell your piece of the rock, and I don't want it to sound like don't sell it. Don't sell it outside. I selling a piece of the rock to family or selling a piece of the rock to another Virgin Islander. For me, I don't feel like that's treacherous. You know, I feel like that's legit sales. We're just not selling outside.
Why?
Because for so long, Virgin Islanders fought to be able to own it. We're a baby government, and I know people think we've been around for a long time, but for a long time we couldn't even own. We couldn't get no access to this. If my grandfather fought so hard in his generation, which is only 2 generations outside of me, we want to ensure that the next 2 generations have so much within their space that it's not a problem for us to ever not own. If somebody said, I want to sell the Virgin Islands, it's not going to be on the same. You only have to talk to one, right? You have to talk to all these landowners, because that's what a deed is. It's saying you literally own a piece of this. So if we're going to sell it, it's like in the stock market. You can't sell the whole stock without first consulting all of your stockholders. And that's how I look at it.
Having Virgin Islanders invested in the Virgin Islands to the point where they are stockholders
of the land.
I really appreciate that value. I don't own a piece of the rock. My dad, so like John Joseph Sibley, I think shared the same, that's my great grandfather, shared the same vision or dream when he came to St. Thomas from St. Bart's almost 120 years ago now, maybe more like 15, right? And he bought land up north side, and he parceled it out, and he makes sure his children have it and his children's children have land. And my dad, not understanding the value of land, he sold his, right? Or maybe he did understand the value of land, and I can't appreciate the need he was in at the time. But like for me, I was just like, ooh, I could have been constructing my house right nestled in my little Sibley village down from my cousin Jeffrey, across from my uncle Jimmy, right above overlooking Sibs.
Because that's what John wanted.
Because that's what John Joseph envisioned for the generations to come, right? And now I am determined to own a piece of St. Thomas and a piece of St. Croix, but I'm going to have to fight so much harder for it. And so I do agree that your inheritance is a blessing. I want to round out our lovely and lively conversation. If you could tell farmers, usually I'm asking people if you could tell consumers anything. Today, if you could tell farmers anything, as a person who would wake up every Saturday by 6 at least to go to the market while me, the food advocate, is still in her bed. I should have been like, you didn't wake up yet? You went to the farmer's market today? I just want that to know that's what happened. What would you tell them?
we're in this together, right? Like your need and your necessity. We need you to understand that our health is dependent on you in a level the same as doctors, right? Like our substance is on the same level as teachers for our children. That's how much we're dependent on you. So when you think your job is just to farm, no. Your job is to ensure that all of us could be fed. And the way you do that might be different in different ways, but just remember we're all in this together. Farmers and consumers is like the best married couple if we get it right. Or we're gonna going back for another divorce if we don't get it right.
Trust. So, thank you for joining us on this episode of Seed and Soil, where I get to have a robust conversation with my best friend in the whole world, Emmanuella Perez-Cassius. And the charge is farmers. If you are watching, please be mindful, careful, and thoughtful about what it is you are offering the community and make visible to them good price points and origins of your food, because your consumers want to be in relationship with you for a really long time, so they want asking for a little bit of help. Thank you.